It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and The Pavilion with me, your host, Stephen Wallace. Cricket fans will know England have just begun a test series against India, and before the action began in Hyderabad, I spoke to former England opening batsman Dennis Amiss about his days touring India during the 1970s. Dennis gives us an insightful account of his battles with the famous Indian spinners of that era in two contrasting test match tours. To end today's show, the former England opener adds his thoughts on the current series. Welcome back to the show, Dennis, to talk about touring India.
Thanks, Stephen. Nice to be with you again.
In this podcast, we're going to talk about winning and losing in India, the challenges of batting in India, and look ahead to England's 2024 tour of India. But firstly, how different is India to other tours? You looked up all the other places you could go to in those days, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Australia, New Zealand and the West Indies. But what, apart from the Indian spinners, are the major challenges in India?
Well, the heat, obviously. It's very hot, and in some places very humid, and the humidity is up near 100, and it can be in the shade. And I think that showed up, didn't it, in the World Cup when England decided they wanted to field first, and the heat of the day really gets to you. And that's the hardest part, to keep your bowlers, to keep hydrated, look after yourself, cover up that, floppy hats and all those sort of things. And a very, very debilitating.
Debilitating.
Yeah. That's what. And so I mean, it's jolly hard work, because if you're going to play long innings, and I mean, I always admired Alistair Cook, because he never seemed to draw a sweat, whereas I absolutely was soaked in sweat, and that's how I got my nickname from Keith Fletcher, because having played that long innings in West Indies years ago. He said, when I came in at tea time, we more or less saved the match. He said, "You look like a sack of Whatsit." So that's how I got my nickname, and I did. I mean, if it's so, you get drained, and you obviously. We were fortunate that we were able to drink bottled water, and so you could rehydrate, but you needed to do that regularly. So that was the hardest part. Obviously, in the first tour, we went there with Tony Lewis, 72, 73. We knew the wickets turned, but we didn't know how much. And that was the big factor there. When we went back in 76, 77, we'd learned. Those of us that went on the previous tour had learned a lot. And Greig and Fletcher, in the last test match, in 72, 73, when they both got hundreds, and it bounced and turned, and that was at Bombay. I think it was at the new stadium, just opened, and it bounced and turned there. They both got hundreds, and they showed us how to play, which was brilliant. So we were able to take that, and also what Bishan Bedi did for me. When I was left out that last test match in 72, 73, when I couldn't get a net because the nets were on the square. And once the match started, of course, there's no nets. And he organised a net for me, which was unbelievable. And I said this on the Razors page the other day, which we can talk about later, that Pocock started. And I said this about Bishan because his birthday cropped up. And I said, what a bloke, because during that test match, he organised for me a net at the end of play, and he said, "I will come and bowl, Pras will come and bowl, Prasanna." He said, "but not Chandrasekhar, because that was Chandrasekhar was getting me out of more than anyone, I suppose, but the others got me out as well." And he said, "Pras, and Venkat. And he said, we'll put the fielders round the bat like they did in 72, 73. You know, they had 6 fielders round the bat, and they would bowl 1 over each from Abid Ali and Solkar, and then they'd put the spinners on off with the new ball. And so he said, we'll pretend they're all round the bat, and we'll tell you what bat and pad and whether you're out or not. And that was amazing. And I think he got into trouble with the Indian cricket authorities for doing that. Which was amazing. But what a thing to do for me. He gave me my confidence back straight away. I obviously wasn't playing in that 5th test match, so I couldn't take it into that. But we went to Pakistan afterwards. And I had a wonderful tour of Pakistan because of what he'd done. You know, I have very, very fond memories of Bishan as a great bowler. One of the great left arm spinners there's been in the history of the game. The control and everything, but you know, if you played a good shot off him, he'd clap you and say good shot. So that was amazing. And
what about the just going back a little bit? Very interesting to hear what you're saying about. I don't think the Indian spinners are going to do that for the England batsmen on this tour, giving them extra practice. What about the travelling and across India when you were out there?
Yeah, no, it's different. It's different to here, and I think that they find the same thing when they come here. That the water's different, the food's slightly different. It's a bit more spice, but you know, you live on curries and make sure that everything's cooked and bottled water, which we did. We took all the preparations we should do, but it's you're on the move. There's a lot of travelling, and we did a lot. I think we did some train trips, but I'm trying to think how many flights, but we did probably take the odd flight, but we took some train trips, and they don't have the corridors, or they didn't then, like we do. So you have corridors and you can walk around, but we just had to stay in your carriage, that sort of thing. And that was different. I mean, yes, I mean, touring is hard work wherever you go, I think. And I mean, you know, as far as I was concerned, I did 3 tours of India. The other one was with Joe Lister in 1968 with Mickey Stewart, and that was Africa and the Far East. And he took us there on a tour. And we went to India and Pakistan, and I thought that one of the best places to bat is in India. Obviously, that first tour, 72, 73 with Tony, was a real learning curve and a difficult one because we'd never seen anything like it. The ball turning straight away, spinners on straight away, men round the bat, up him, catch him, and the crowd going mad. And when you're given out, the crowd would, you know, we had, I think in Calcutta, there's something like 100,000 people in, and flashing mirrors and all those sort of things going on. So to try and distract. But I mean, the atmosphere and a tour of India is fantastic. I mean, it's a great experience, and I was lucky to do 3. And to bat there, when you get in, you know, it's have a bit of luck because the ball's turning. You need a bit of luck, but you can score runs, as Fletcher and Greggy showed us on that 72-73 tour, with the ball turning, you know, a lot, bouncing and turning, the hardest to play. But it didn't worry them if they played a missed, and they carried on. They got 100 each, and that was the way that we learnt. And that's the way we played in the second tour when we went with Greggy in 76. So, yeah, I mean, fantastic place to play. And when we played the zone matches in between test matches, you get invited out to people's homes. And my hand was always up, and so was Greggy's and Fletcher's, and we would go, and they'd invite us out for a meal, and you'd learn all about the area, and it was all areas differ, of course, in India as they do in every other part of the world, but you learn a lot about the country, and because the tour was that much longer, we were able to go and see the Taj Mahal and sites of the Golden Temple of Amritsar and things like that, which was a fantastic experience. You never forget them, and I've still got the photos now in my drawer, which occasionally that we pull out and we, as a family, and we have a look back. So I have only, although I had a difficult tour, 72, 73, I have great memories of going to India, and I think it's a great place to go and play your cricket and learn your cricket. And I'd recommend that anybody, get the opportunity to go.
Well, let's focus then first on 72, 73. England had just finished a summer against the Australians, 2-2, so they still held the Ashes. And you'd played in the ODI series against Australia. Many people probably forget that Brian Close actually captained England in that series. Warwickshire were county champions in 1972, and you'd reached the Gillette Cup final as well. You'd had a successful season. Were you optimistic on being selected for the tour of India?
Well, I just hope that I'd had a difficult start to my Test career, so I just hope that with all those runs that I stood a chance, and I was hoping that I would go. I was a decent player of spin bowling, so I kept my fingers crossed and hoped that I'd be included, and I got the opportunity, fortunately.
It was quite an inexperienced England side. I looked up, and of the test at the Oval in 72 against the Australians, only 5 of the side in that test, Barry Wood, Tony Greig, Alan Knott, Jeff Arnold and Derek Underwood, played in that first test in India.
Yeah, we were an inexperienced side, and that was a big factor between the two teams, and especially going to India. And it's always hard to go there and play cricket for the heat and all the things, the turning ball. It's a totally it's a different game, and with not with the experience, especially in that batting lineup, it made life very, very difficult for us. And we quickly found out that we were up against it.
But England won the first test, led by Tony Lewis's, and it was Tony Lewis's test debut as well.
Yes, yeah, he was captain and a good leader, Tony. We got off to a good start, but it quickly fell away in the next few Test matches, as I well remember. But that was a great start, and it did give us some confidence. But suddenly the things built up on us, and I mean, there were such great spinners, and Chandrasekhar getting the bounce that he did, leg spinners and his Google, and bowling them at pace. That he did, and of course you had Venkat and then Prasanna and Bedi. You had 4 great spinners bowling against you on wickets that suited them. So life was to get more difficult, as we found, and they played some really good cricket.
You mentioned earlier about how close the field is. Well, I've seen some clips on the internet. I mean, Chandrasekhar 35 wickets in the series, Bedi 25 wickets in the series. The fielders were really close, weren't they?
Oh yeah, and any bat and pads that they were difficult to decipher whether it was pad first or bat first, and whether it was NLB or whether it was bat and pad, and they were just diving in and more or less taking the ball off the pad as it nicked the bat as well. So as I say, 2 overs of the new ball with Abidali and Solkar, and they were off, and the spinners were on. It was a different game.
Yeah. How difficult then was it as an opening batsman? You know, you're facing actually in the third test, Sunil Gavaskar opened the bowling and bowled 1 over. Solkar bowled 2, and then you're instantly facing, Bedi, Chandra, Prasanna.
Yeah. And it was amazing because normally you're getting yourself in against the seamers, but suddenly the spinners were on and it was turning and bouncing. And they were great bowlers. They didn't bowl you a bad ball. The pressure was on all the time, and especially with those guys round the bat. And of course, Rookie, as we knew, he was. I think he was playing in county cricket then. We knew him, and he was keeping wicket. As I say, life was very difficult and a totally different game to anything. And we hadn't had experience of this before. But you look back on it, and as I look back on, the good times and the bad times, they were tremendous experiences.
Well, England lost the second test by 28 runs, the third test by 4 wickets. So they're relatively close games, but the next 2 tests were drawn. How do you reflect back on that first tour of India, 72, 73?
Yeah, well, I struggled, when you struggle, you lose your confidence, and there were other people playing decently. I think that I was left out on the flattest wicket of the tour, which was the fourth Test match.
In
Yeah,
Kanpur.
that's it. And I was hoping I'd play in that because we'd heard it was going to be a flat wicket, as they normally were there. I was really disappointed, but I hadn't scored any runs, so and the decision proved to be right, that people scored runs, and I missed the last two Test matches. Yeah,
In the fourth Test, England captain Tony Lewis scored 125. You've already said, but you had a high regard of Tony as a captain.
Yeah, no, Tony's a good leader, and I thought he did. I thought he did well out there in difficult circumstances. But he had his good advisors, which was Greig and Fletch, and they were all trying to help, and they were experienced. Well, not experienced of India, but certainly experienced cricketers. So I think Fletcher probably. I don't know whether Fletcher was. He probably wasn't captain of Essex, but it wasn't long after that he was. So there were good people who were advising him. So he would take their counsel and listen to it. Yeah.
I don't suppose in those days you had a very big support group on the tour.
No, we certainly didn't have the Barmy Army.
No, it's not the Barmy Army. I was thinking about the doctors, nutritionists, physios, and all that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, we had Bernard Thomas. I think that he was the physio and he acted as doctor and everything. So he was a good guy, and he put us through our paces in our warm-ups before the matches started. But he had to play a bigger part than normal. No, nothing like what they have today, but we were okay.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. You could turn $10 into $250. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/fan and use code FAN. That's code FAN at prizepicks.com/fan.
Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Every day, we rise, challenging ourselves to work for what we believe in. At U.S. Border Patrol, protecting our borders is more than a job. It's a calling. Agents answer the call, working together to keep our country and communities safe. If you are ready for a new mission, join U.S. Border Patrol and go beyond. Learn more at cbp.gov/careers.
Well, let's move on to 1976-77 tour. The summer of 1976, you played the last Test against the West Indies when you famously scored 203 in Michael Holding's match where he got 14 wickets. Easy to forget, or not easy to forget if you were fielding, I shouldn't think, when Viv also scored 291 in that game at the Oval. Yeah. And you had a very good summer. You scored 2,000 runs at 65. Yeah.
I changed the stance, didn't I? I did the back and across like Kenny Barrington and Ian Chappell. They'd done it before me, and I'd seen what they did. I got hit on the head at the beginning of that summer, my own fault. I ducked into one off Michael Holding, and suddenly realised that I either had to pack it in or do something desperate to give him the confidence to carry on. So I decided I'd try the Kenny Barrington and Ian Chappell, which was back and across. And fortunately for me in 76, the wickets were good. It was a good summer, so the wickets were good. So I was able to use that new technique to good effect. And hence the runs followed. And once your confidence is high, the wickets were good. Yeah, I went from strength to strength and played in that last Test match at the Oval, as you say. And I think if you look at that, there are films of it. The brown grass, the ball, you only had to put it just slightly to the left or the right of a field, it was gone. So the ball sped across the outfield like nobody's business. So that the fours came quite quickly during that, and it was great to be able to do it, to change your stance in the middle of a summer and come out and score those runs. Well, but I think, I was very lucky in as much that was a fantastic summer and the wickets were good.
Then you're off to India, then 76, 77.
Yeah.
Were you more confident having been in 72, 73?
Yeah, I was looking forward to it more. That especially after what Bishan had done in the previous tour, and of course Pakistan. We went to Pakistan over that, and I had a good tour there. So I got, my confidence was high. So I was really looking forward to going back and sort of undoing what I'd done in the previous tour and try and make some runs instead of getting out for next to nothing. And it got lucky again. The first test was at Delhi. It was a really, really good wicket, and the ball didn't spin as much, although it did as the game wore and the wicket wore. As you went on through the 5 days, the wicket did take spin, but not in that first innings when we won the toss. And of course, we did score some runs, a lot of runs, I think. And John Lever swung the ball all over the place. I can't remember whether we used an English ball or the Indian balls, but
no, I think reports I've read, it was an Indian ball. England scored 381, and then John Lee was on debut as well.
Yeah, and it was amazing, really, because I think we played with English balls on the previous tour. It's just the authorities deciding which ball we play with. But it did. It swung prodigiously, and JK, I think, got 7 wickets, didn't he?
He did, 7 wickets, and you don't forget that Dennis Amiss got 179. I looked up, you faced 397 balls, 511 minutes. That must have been really taxing on the body.
Yeah, but it's not as humid at Delhi, so it does take a lot out of you. You do feel quite sweating so much as I did it. It took a lot out of me playing those innings, but obviously you're really pleased to have done it and to get some runs on the board to give us a chance. And we got off to a great start by winning that Test match, didn't we? And you look back on that tour, and there aren't many people that have gone to India and won, but we did. And nobody ever talks about it, that Greggy led it. And it was a fantastic what we did, of blokes that went on the previous tour and turned it around on the second tour with that, having had that experience a few years previously, 4 years was it, that previously, that we were able to do that. But it's not talked about a lot, and other tours are talked about who won there. But Greggy led from the front, and Derek Underwood, I think he came good, didn't he?
29 wickets, Derek Underwood, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure he had such a good tour the tour before. So he stepped up, and that was fantastic for him and us, of course. But we'd been together a little bit before, so we all knew one another. We all enjoyed one another's company, and we all rated one another. So I think that really helped.
Yeah, the second test you won in Calcutta by 10 wickets. The third test by 200 runs. You're right about England winning in India. It was the first England tour to test team to win in India since Douglas Jardine in 1933-34. So we are going back, and I think since we've only had the David Gower tour and the Alistair Cook tours where England have won.
Yes, yeah, and that's a shame because they talk about that. I'm not because I was there, but I feel sorry for the team that did that. And especially after being whacked in 72, 73 with most of those players on that tour, to go back and turn it around and come away. Was it
3-1 you won. India won the fourth test, and the fifth test was drawn. How did the Indian public react to England winning the first 3 tests?
Well, obviously, they want their side to win, and they're obviously going to be disappointed. But I think that we just still felt that they were right behind them, and they might turn it round. So, but we continued to play good cricket all the way through, and all our confidence was there. All our experience of, as I say, from the previous tour was there. We were an experienced side this time, as we weren't in 72, 73. And that shone through, and it was fantastic. Really, it was such a great tour, and I think the Indians they love good cricket, don't they? They want their side to win, but they do enjoy seeing good cricket, and we felt that they liked us. We were a good team, and we worked at that side of things. We were really welcome, so we warmed to that, and I thought that we were well led, and we had a feeling in the side that we needed to go out and express ourselves. This was a really good tour, and the public we felt liked us to a certain extent, although their team weren't winning, and I think that helped. But we helped it to make it that, I do believe. So we worked hard on that side as well, and that was reciprocated by I felt by the Indian public.
Was that helped by we've talked about him earlier, that your charismatic leader, Tony Greig, who they seem to love Tony Greig?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Greggy was worked really hard because he wanted to. He was a charismatic character anyway, and he worked really hard at it, not only for himself but also the team. And he really went out of his way to warm to people and be hospitable and signing autographs and all those things. And we did that. We just really tried hard as a team, and it was easy, I suppose. People were saying you're winning, and it is easier when you're winning to be warmed back to the people. And as I say, we had these lovely trips north, and we playing of the different zones all over the place. Lovely evenings where we would be invited out by the Indian cricketing public and go and hosted us for meals at their houses, and that we went. We always went, and maybe half a dozen of us. Did we take it in turns? Well, I think I went to everyone because you got fantastic food, and the people were lovely, and you just learnt about the country.
What you do pick up when you see, there are some videos on the internet, is remarkably how close Tony Greig was fielding at Silly Point. I heard a comment on this recording I was watching when it said Greig fielding at very Silly Point.
Yeah, he tried to intimidate them a little bit. Yes, try to put the batters off a little bit, and it sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But a little bit of gamesmanship, should we say, played there by Greggy. He was always up for a little bit of that.
Well, you had a very successful tour. You were at the England top run score, 417 runs at 52. Tony Greig scoring 342 runs. And as we said earlier, Derek Underwood, 29 wickets, John Lever, 26. Were the wickets less conducive to spin in 76, 77 than 72, 73, or was it the more experience you had?
I think the more experience we'd had, I thought that played a big part after most of us had been in 72, 73. So I think that was the big part of it. And Greig and Fletch in that last test match of 72 and 73 showed us how to play and to be patient and to not to worry when, you get beaten by the ball. If you have a bit of luck, you can get in and you can play well on those wickets. So they proved it to us previously, and and that first test match, I was surprised to tell you, it didn't turn until later on, and I thought that they might turn from the word go, but not everyone did in 76. They would turn maybe later, The odd ball might turn in the first innings, but I think that more so later on. And they probably weren't the wickets, quite the same wickets that we played on 72 to start with, where they had turned square from the word go.
Well, Bishan still finished up with 25 wickets, Chandra 19 and Prasanna 18. But let's look ahead to England's 5 tests coming up in 7 weeks in India. What do you think of England's chances of doing what you did back in 1976-77?
Yeah, well, we've got they're quite experienced, aren't they? And they've played such good cricket, especially against Australia this last summer. So they do have experience. They don't have experience necessarily of India, although they have played IPL. But IPL white ball cricket is different to Test match cricket, especially in India. So I think that they'll get turning wickets. But I mean, Stokes and McCullum, who lead from the front. They're both very positive guys, and I think you've got to play positive cricket. So there's no problem there with that side. Everybody plays positive cricket, and I think that's what they've got to do. But the wickets will turn. I think it'll be down to spinners, and have we got the experience with our spinners that they have? And that's the big thing, because they grow up spin bowling in India, and they're on conducive wickets, which really helps them and gives them confidence. So they are playing at home, which is the advantage they'll have over us. So it will be. I think it will be hard work. I would have thought it would be hard work against an Indian side who are on their home wickets. And will they turn? Well, it looks as though they haven't picked Sammy, have they? For some reason, I'm not quite sure whether he's injured, but they brought an extra spinner in, I see, into the side. They still have Jadeda and the off spinner,
Ashwin.
So those chaps are still around, and they are really experienced campaigners. So it will be difficult, but as long as we play positive cricket, I think that it'll be good. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good series.
Well, India have only lost 3 of the last 46 tests at home. What did you think to England's preparation going to Abu Dhabi first? A bit different. I looked up in 76, 77. I know we're in a different sort of era. England, or the MCC as they were then, played 4 3-day matches before the first test match.
Yeah, they don't do that now, do they? They go into the countries and they just want to play test matches. I think that started in the era of Gooch and Bob Willis and Beefy. They didn't want to play test matches and they wanted just shorter tours. I think that's a shame, because you do see these countries, you get around, and also you get some cricket, which I think is important, and especially for people on the periphery, they need to keep going. But I found Abu Dhabi a strange decision, because the wickets, I'm not quite sure they'll be the same as the Indian wickets. But anyway, I mean, I suppose it's going out in the warm and getting some cricket. But they'll go straight into a test match, I think, won't they?
Yeah, 4 days, I think. How would you have felt as an ex-opening batsman 4 days and before arriving in India and then playing a test match against Chandra and Bedi?
Yeah, difficult. You want a few nets beforehand, but of course net practice is never quite the same as middle practice. The pressures aren't the same. But I think it's going to be spin bowling again, because the wickets are conducive to turn over there. There's not a lot of grass. It's more hard baked mud there that crumbles after a time, and the ball does start to turn a lot. So if they can post runs and then get their spinners going, that could make life difficult for us. But we're playing positive cricket under our leadership, and sometimes you can take it to them, and as Stokes does, and take it away from them a little bit. When somebody's hitting you, I always remember the Aussies saying in World Series cricket that bowling to the West Indies, they said they're hard to bowl to, aren't they? They smack you all over the place. And when someone's doing that and putting the pressure back on you, if a batter's doing that, like Stokes, and he's whacking those spinners, they're not quite the same bowlers. They have to do something differently. So you're putting the pressure back on them, and that's what we've got to do. But everyone to play his own way. But I think if under that leadership, I think they do play positive cricket, and that's not necessarily baseball all the time. It's just playing positive cricket, and sometimes you can play over there. You can play a positive block when one bounces and turns, and suddenly it hits the middle of the bat, even, and so that gives you confidence out there. Here's where the ball bounced and turned, and you played a block, but it hit the middle of the bat, and that you don't have to hit every ball for four. Just a block like that sometimes, and you think, oh, great, I got that one right. And then suddenly, because you got that one right, the bowler thinks, my gosh, that was one of my best balls, and he's middled it. But he didn't score any runs, but I've got to try something different. And sometimes they try something different, and you're putting the pressure back on them, and away you go. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it should be some really good cricket. I think spinners turning the ball is good cricket. So it's different to Australia and other parts of the world. They're good cricketers, good place to go. And so, yeah, it might be quite a tight series, but go and enjoy.
So do you think someone like Joe Root could be very important to England on these spinning wickets?
Oh, yeah, Joe's. I think we've got some good players, haven't we? They are experienced players. So Joe's one of our best players ever. So, I mean, he can play, he knows how to play spin bowling, and he's such an all-round top player.
But you're hopeful that England could win some tests out there?
There's no reason why not. If you play some good cricket, I mean, as I say, that they a lot of them do go out and play the white ball T20 stuff, don't they? So that they'll be comfortable in India, but whether the wickets will be different, and I think they'll probably turn more as they do, and it's 5-day cricket as opposed to 1-day cricket. So it will be a different game. Well, they've got to have patience, but they've got to play positively. And if you can do that, there's no reason why we can't do it. Just you want to get off to a good start, don't you? Give you the confidence. There's no reason why we shouldn't do it. Depends how our spinners bowl and our spinners under pressure out there against their spinners. That would be a big factor, I think.
Well, fingers crossed they can do as well as and start as well as you did in 1976-77. I can only imagine you look back with fondness at your 3 trips to India. Yeah,
I do, and really enjoyed them, and a great place to go and play your cricket because you learn so much, and it's travelling the world as we did. We were so lucky, and everywhere is a different experience. And good luck to them, and go and enjoy it because it's a really good place. And if you do get in as a batter, you can play on those wickets.
And have you ever been back to India since?
No, not since that last trip of 76. No. But I go back with the television cameras and watch with interest because there's always something happening there, isn't there? And I do watch I wouldn't say I'm an avid watcher of T20 stuff, but I do watch occasionally just to see, how it's done and how they're playing these days. So I do take an interest, but and I do like short form cricket. I do like white ball cricket. I love playing it. You always wanted to smack the ball as a batter, and that gives you the options. And if you get out, you don't get a rollicking necessarily. So like you used to when we used to play, and I know John Jameson, my county colleague, he loved to smack the ball. And if he'd take mid off on, he'd say, "Well, I can't put him out there. I'm gonna hit it over his head." And I always remember him doing that at the Oval once, and he got caught on the boundary, and he got such a rollicking from the senior players when he came back. But of course, you don't get that necessarily so much these days. And positive cricket, it's brilliant to watch. I think the way they're playing these days, and I'm a great supporter, and take my hat off to them. Keep going, boys. Keep playing positively.
Well, we mustn't forget, Dennis, as we're winding up the podcast, that you were the first player in the World Cup to score a century. So we mustn't forget that. Back in 1975.
Yeah, no, that was good. That was good. I really enjoyed that.
And against India as well, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it was at Lord's, and it was a really good wicket.
Well, thank you very much for being part of this podcast about touring in India, and enjoy watching the current series. And don't forget to have a look on the internet to see clips of Dennis Amiss playing in 72, 73 and 76, 77. And as we said off air, there's one clip of you with a pipe.
Ah, brilliant. I'm glad I stopped that, though. Thanks, Stephen. Always a pleasure. I love talking cricket, and it's amazing. I mean, people say to me, how do you remember all those things? But you do, and I'm pleased that I've still got the memory to be able to do it and talk about it. And I go round to the cricket societies, as they know in this country, and just love talking to people about cricket who love cricket.
Well, thank you very much again for joining us.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.